Coastal master plan over the past few years calls for $50 billion over 50 years to restore our coastline and provide hurricane protection to the people of South Louisiana all the way from Lake Charles through Slidell. And that's obviously very important, but furthermore, we're continuing to look at other options. The East Orleans land bridge is being rebuilt by private dollars entirely outside of the realm of federal, state, and local expenditures, and so it creates the opportunity for new ways to rebuild wetlands, rebuild our coast, and provide protection. We know that for every foot of wetlands that we can rebuild, we can create a storm surge barrier that knocks down the effects that these massive and powerful storms have on the people of South Louisiana. And so we want to continue to rebuild land and also build hurricane protection structures that make our communities safe for the people that live in them and the people who do business in them and make investments in it.
The state master plan is something that in our mind embraces this idea of a multiple lines of defense, that this is not a simple one solution to this problem, but multifaceted. We think the state master plan is a great step in that direction to rebuild our coast and build up our defenses, not just in the short term, but for the long term.
Everybody has a stake in this. I plant cypress trees with my son. We talk about recycling, and we actually engage in recycling. I tell him, no, you can't put that plastic bottle in this trash bin, put it in this one. And I tell him why, because everybody could do a little bit. When you talk about the type of vehicle that you drive or how fast you drive, the faster you drive, the more gasoline you burn. The more gasoline you burn, those are more emissions that go out into the environment. Simple things like trash, throwing your trash out, recycle your trash, do more with that. So everybody has a play in this, and we're all in this fight together.
What are some things that people can do to help ease the climate change?
Well, of course, alternative energy sources, as much as possible use green type technologies, recycling, minimizing just materials, anything that reduces the energy stream is beneficial to everyone. But to affect big change, we need to see some national policy changes and things that maybe adopt things like carbon banking and so forth.
We have energy efficiency programs here in New Orleans. It's called Energy Smart, and you get access to an expert, and they'll come to your house, and they're like a house doctor. They'll diagnose all of your waste problems and tell you how to plug all the holes so that your air conditioning stays in your house and not in your attic or in your front yard or under your house or anywhere in your neighbor's yard. And so you can lower your energy bill, but you also decrease waste, and so that cuts down the amount of global warming pollution.
What are some things that the people of South Louisiana are looking to lose if we don't affect climate change?
Well, I think that they're already seeing and have unfortunately tasted that, and maybe more to come. I mean, basically every hurricane season, if there's not a hurricane, people kind of sit on the edge of their seats waiting to see and being prepared for an event. But these communities have been hit by many storms in the past that in the past were unrelated to climate change, but reflect the kinds of events that we'll maybe see more of in the future. But basically it means that their homes might be flooded, their homes might be lost, their lives disrupted. Unfortunately, sometimes even death in these events are health issues.
Vacuteer is a private nonprofit here in the city. We assist the city of New Orleans should we ever have to evacuate the entire city, but more specifically, we assist in the evacuation process for residents who don't own cars. So there's about 30,000 of them, and there's a complex and important plan that needs to be in place should we have to evacuate them.
Oxfam is an international NGO that focuses on poverty reduction around the world. In the U.S., we have two programs, one that focuses around farming and equity within that process, and here in the Gulf Coast, we focus on coastal communities and working with partners across Terrebonne, Lafourche, Jefferson, Orleans, and Plaquemines Parish in regard to issues of coastal restoration, workforce development, and how you utilize the resources here in order to save Southeast Louisiana.
We're a nonprofit organization. We fight for consumers anyone who has an electric bill. We are fighting for you. We work with decision makers at the state and in New Orleans to keep our bills low, but we also try to protect our health. So we promote environmentally responsible energy policy. So that would be investments in renewables, that would be investments in energy efficiency.
I think what we've seen over the past 8 years and moving forward, that climate change is an issue that we have to be aware of. And the warming of our Gulf Coast waters is something that affects us all, especially when we're talking about the risk of loss of life and property and bigger storms. So on our end, we're of course just fighting every year to make sure that we're keeping our residents who are most vulnerable safe.
We work with some of our partners in some of those parishes that I said previously on planting marsh and seagrass. So, battling it from the front. We work on issues of diversions and what we think some of the impacts may be on diversions, how it's going to affect people's livelihoods. So we see a holistic approach to working on issues of climate change, but particularly, obviously, because we're here in the Gulf Coast and surrounded by this beautiful body of water, issues during hurricane season, how individuals will adapt to it, making sure they have the necessary information to get out and protect themselves. But once we're here, especially in the month of June all the way to November 30th, to be very conscious of getting out, to be very conscious of the things that we're doing to the environment, the things that we're doing in our surrounding, the legislation that we pass as we come off of Louisiana legislative session, how those things affect the environment and affect us long term. If we want our grandchildren to be here in the next 50 years, we have to make investments right now.
It's a beautiful day in New Orleans and in southeast Louisiana, but we are in hurricane season. So I would encourage people to have a plan, talk with your family and find out, if there's an evacuation, where you're going to go. What are you going to do? Try to save some money because it's not cheap to evacuate. You have to have a plan. You don't want to rely on government agencies to tell you, where to go or what to do. Talk it out with your family and, have a bonding moment. Try to figure out what are you going to do if and when that situation arises.
The City Council just recently opened a docket to study renewable energy. So we're looking at maybe doing a solar plant or a wind farm or something really interesting here in New Orleans. So we'll keep you posted on that.